Good evening and welcome to a continuation of programming we are doing for candidates for office on November 7th that is being brought to you by Cuyahoga Community College and The Citizen. I'm your moderator, Guy Cosentino. On November 7th, voters in the city of Auburn will be able to vote for new members of City Council. First-term Councilor Timothy LaCastro has decided not to seek re-election, and two-term City Councilor Jimmy Giannantino is running for mayor, and he'll be in the studio on Thursday. With us today are the three candidates, who are running. There are four candidates running for City Council. We have three of them in the studio, seated in the order of their opening statements. Rhoda Overstreet Wilson, who's on the Democratic Working Families and Auburn Party line. Christine Calarco, who is also on the Democratic Working Families and Auburn Party line. And Brian Dahl, who's on the Republican and Conservative lines. A fourth candidate, Republican Andrea Guerrera, did not respond to our invitation. Representing the press today for, I think, the fifth or sixth time is Robert Harding, the political reporter for The Citizen. We're delighted to have you back in the studio after you were off last week. Be able to ask candidates all of their questions, whether it's to them individually or as a group. Prior to our recording, we drew lots, so that is why the candidates are seated where they are for their opening 2-minute statements. And we'd like to welcome them again and thank you for agreeing to do this with our students, but more importantly for the public who gets to hear your views over the next hour. We're going to start with opening statements. We're going to hear from Rhoda Overstreet Wilson, who, as I mentioned, is on the Democratic Working Families and Auburn Party line. Welcome. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Mr. Cosentino and Mr. Harding and to the students that are working the electronics and anybody on the team that has made this opportunity a possibility. My grandmother migrated north during the Great Migration. She came hoping and looking for a better future that included educational opportunities for her children and employment opportunities. She had no idea that when she was coming north that she was headed toward Albany, that she had landed in Auburn. Auburn being Harriet Tubman's chosen hometown, history's hometown. The same faith and bravery that she exhibited inspires me to live the life that I have chosen. I worked diligently in Auburn, hoping to create the same pathways that my grandmother created for me and my family for the underserved population in Auburn. Being born and raised in Auburn, I was intentional about how I would serve in an advocacy role. I have done so by being very candid about the things that I see that need to be addressed or changed. I've served on numerous boards, committees, and met with city leadership to discuss an array of issues on building trust, workforce development, and on the many different concerns that have arisen in our community. I also was voted twice onto the school board, Auburn School Board. Professionally, I worked in children's residential services, mental health, and was the director of an assisted living facility. I know how to work on a team. I know the value of critical thinking, I know when to lead, and I know when to listen. I love my hometown, and I believe the extraordinary changes that have occurred are setting us up for future success. I ask for your vote because I have the skill set necessary to fight for clean water, strategize ways to build our local economy, and identify untapped resources to build on the efforts of our workforce development.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Christine Calarco, who's a member of the Cuyahoga County Legislature. She is on the Democratic Working Families and Auburn Party line. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much. First, I want to thank CCC, The Citizen, Mr. Cosentino, and Mr. Harding for having us today and giving us this opportunity to speak to the public. For those of you who don't know me, I want to introduce myself. I am an Auburn High School science teacher. I'm also a county legislator. I've been born and raised in Auburn, and when I returned here several years ago to reestablish myself, I was dismayed at how Auburn's downtown was derelict and wasn't what I remembered from my childhood. And now, as years have passed, I've been back over 20 years now to see the growth and the change that has happened in this city. This is something I want to be a part of and continue to push it forward. We do have some things in our way that we need to address. We need to make sure we protect the lake. We need to address homelessness and the opioid epidemic. But more importantly, we need to create this as our society and an environment in which our children are going to want to stay here and establish their families and be a part of this community. So that being said, I humbly ask for everyone's vote and their support to help in this endeavor to move things forward. And I would also like to take a moment and thank the people who have already shown me such great support, including the SEIU, Auburn Fire Union, NYSET, and the ATA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Legislator. We'll now hear from Brian Dahl, who is on the Republican and Conservative lines. Mr. Dahl, welcome back to the studio.
Welcome. Thank you, Guy. First, good afternoon to all our constituents, and thank you to the Cayuga Community College staff, students, and today's forum moderators. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in the town of Troop, just outside the city of Auburn. I attended and graduated from Port Byron High School. After graduation, I found the love of my life. Her name is Paulette. We got married in 1989, and we have 2 wonderful children that are all adults at this time. We have lived and worked in Auburn all of our lives. From an early age, I worked for everything that I ever wanted, because nothing was free. Today, I'm retired from Cayuga County after working 15 years after a battle with liver and kidney disease. I am a dual transplant survivor. My work experience working from Auburn Community Hospital has made me a better person. We worked as a team on every shift, every minute of the day, every minute of the night over the 20 years that I was there. We worked at getting the jobs completed. We took care of our loved ones with care, compassion, and empathy for every patient and every employee. My work experience working with Auburn Community Hospital, I already said that. In 1995, I began working with Cayuga County as a deputy EMS coordinator, all the while raising a family and working at Auburn Community Hospital. In 2004, I accepted an appointed position as a director of emergency services for Cayuga County until May 2018 with my retirement. After these years, I've been in many leadership roles, managing workforces, working with many local, state, and federal politicians abroad. I have served as a lead with many state and local groups with great success. I am the current fire chief in the town of Troop, president, CEO, active member for 41 years. I was the Central New York Regional EMS Council president, serving support to the region of Cayuga, Cortland, Onondaga, Oswego, and Tompkins counties. I was the New York State Emergency Managers Association vice president, as well as the Lake District Emergency Managers Association. Was a very active in baseball, serving as a board member and coach for many years. I am a mentor to many. Currently the chairman of the Cayuga County Water and Sewer Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl.
Thank you.
We'll now turn to Mr. Harding, who is the political reporter for The Citizen. He can ask questions, as I said at the beginning, of any one of you on things that you may have said during the campaign, or he can make it for all of you. If it's for all of you, we'll go around the horn. If it's for all of you, the first question is going to go to Legislator Calarco and make our way around. Mr. Harding.
Thanks, Guy. I'll start with a question for all of the candidates. Each of you in interviews has listed protecting Auburn's drinking water as a top priority. What will you do as a city councilor to advocate for clean water?
Okay. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. As a city councilor, I will continue to work with the institutions that are already in place and working to fix this, including AULA, this city government, and the county government. We need to put pressure on the state level that they go ahead and sign those documents so that we can have monitoring of our lake and have set levels for the pollutants and know what's going in there. As a legislator, I was dismayed at the earlier vote this year when the legislators decided to not test the lake water. That decision was thankfully reversed in the end. But this is really important moving forward, that we put the pressure on at the state to make sure that this gets fixed.
Thank you. Mr. Dahl, you'll have 2 minutes on drinking water for the city of Auburn.
I have a lot to say. First, our city water in Owasco Lake is our #1 resource that we provide to all of Cayuga County, the majority of it. We have 30,000 customers on the city water system. In 2014, the levels show trihalomethanes, which is a chemical compound that is found in our tap water, which is disinfected with chlorine. And that's our water. The chlorine turns our water into these compounds. So basically what that is that water compound that's showing up high in our reports is chloroform. That is, what did we use chloroform? It's a toxic. These include, they cause cancer, reproductive development effects, kidney and liver problems, and nervous system effects such as depression and other things. We can fix it. However, we're not doing anything about it besides filtering our water. I am a huge advocate because, again, I said it earlier, I am a liver and kidney recipient, and this compound was found through my infectious disease folks at Strong Memorial Hospital, which was the #1 cause of my liver and kidney failure. This has a great deal of passion for me that we need to fix so other people aren't becoming sick.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl. Mr. Overstreet Wilson, you'll have 2 minutes on this as well.
Thank you. I think this is a great question. There's a lot of misinformation being spread about Auburn in our water and the supply of that, and I think that that is intentionally meant to create fear. If we think about water and what is happening in our nation, it's not just an Auburn issue, but it's something that we definitely all need to collectively think about and how we are going to not just take care of it now, but how are we going to take care of it in 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years? If we think back about how it was when we were growing up and how beautiful Emerson Lake was in those 7 lakes that were a part of our growing up, we need to make sure that the way in which I'm describing it now is the way in which it will be described in the future. I am not afraid to continue the efforts and the fights that this city leadership has already put in place. They've already embarked on like a 3-year plan, a 3-year study that they have been pushing toward the state, and the state has been resistant to it. I want to be a part of that conversation. I want to be a part of that voice. I want to use my experience that I've used for over 25 years, being a candid and a vocal advocate. Being born and raised in Auburn, and my children and my grandchildren being here, I want to ensure that the drinking water that is now in place, even though there are things that we need to do to make sure that it stays that way, that my generations after me will have clean drinking water as well.
Thank you. Mr. Harding. Oh, excuse me. Mr. Dahl, you'll have 1 minute.
Just a little rebuttal. People are saying that it's okay to drink the water. We are at the bare minimum on the drinking water. You look at these city reports. It's posted online, 2014 to present. It states that we are just under the minimum requirement to shut the water system down. Bare minimum. Is that what we want? Do we want high quality water or do we want low quality water? I prefer the high quality water. These reports are all saying you should be drinking bottled water. Bottled water. I don't want you to run out to Walmart and load up on it. You can certainly cook with it and bathe with it, but you shouldn't be drinking it if you have any immunocompromising diseases.
Mr. Overstreet, you'll have, Wilson, you'll have 1 minute as well.
Well, I have a rebuttal to that as well. The fact is when the legislation, when the policy was created by our current mayor and the city council, they had to take that to the legislators. And at that time, the Republican legislators refused to sign it. So it can't be an issue that they have huge concerns about and they're not in support of signing the policies and the procedures that we would need to address a long-term solution to this. Again, fear. It's fear. It's meant to gaslight our citizens. We have a lot of work to do, but going out and buying drinking water today would be something that the Republicans put us into this place if that's what we need to do, by not endorsing it.
Okay, Mr. Dahl, if you have, you get 1 more minute and we'll go back and
It's
forth.
going to be quick. I'm not here to scare anybody, and I'm not Republican against Democrat. I work together with people. I just want to get the word out that there is an issue with our water and we need to fix it. Bottom line.
So you'll have 1 minute as well.
I agree as well, and I want to definitely state that I share the sentiment. And of course, it's not a us against them. We're all human. We all have a right to safe drinking water, but we all need to be cognizant of the messages that are being sent from both sides. We need to work together to make sure that it is addressed, but if there are sides giving misinformation, then the idea that we're going to work together would be missed. I'm not here to rebut anything that any of my counterparts have said about this, but just to make sure that the city of Auburn knows that the clean water is important, and that anything that needs to be done that I can be a part of, I will be a vocal advocate for that.
Ms. Clarko, you'll have 2 minutes and then we're going to wrap up with you and move
I
to
won't
Mr.
take 2
Harding.
minutes.
Okay.
I just want to say that I really want to emphasize a point that Mrs. Overstreet made, is that it is really important that we have clean water. This clean water is a human right. It is not a privilege, and we need to do everything that is necessary to fix that. And I hope that everybody is willing to come to the table to do this. As I said, it was very disappointing to have the Republican legislators shoot this down earlier this year, and it is important to note that it has been brought back and the testing of the lake water is occurring. But we need to all work together to fix this. We need clean water if we're going to expect this area to grow and if we're going to expect people to stay. Thank you.
Mr. Harding, let's bring you back here
Yeah.
into this.
Let's keep going on this topic because earlier this year, the state came back with its response to the proposed watershed rules and regulations. Major revisions is the best way to summarize this. What is your assessment of the state's response to the proposed watershed rules and regulations that were submitted 3 years ago through a process that was conducted locally here by, among others, the City Council?
Mr. Dahl, you'll have 2 minutes on this.
I think they need to be a little stricter. I think we need to get somebody out there to actually enforce it. I can't blame it all on the farmers. Phosphorus is natural through the cow process, and I don't think everybody's dumping it into the lake like people are saying, or into our streams. I think a lot of it's coming from our camps, and I don't think anything's being done about checking up on these camps to make sure that their gray water isn't flowing into our lake.
Thank you. Mr. Overstreet Wilson, you'll have 2 minutes on this subject.
I see this as a two-part function. To reiterate what Mr. Dahl has said, yes, it's not all because of our farmers. It's that there are people intentionally dumping things into our lake water, but I do believe that it is an economic issue. I do believe that the proposal that we put together, including our city council, and it was shot down, has everything to do with money. They did grant us money, but it was like a Band-Aid. And they didn't address the things that would take care of protecting our water 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out. That's why there are revisions being made now, and that's going to go forward. I do hope that along with this newly elected city council and our legislative body, that we can all get together and make sure and have one voice. One voice. We're stronger together. One voice to make sure that the governor hears our need. Having clean water is an economic issue and concern, specifically for this area, but definitely for Auburn. If we do not have clean water, we cannot grow economically.
Legislator Clarko, 2 minutes on this issue of the watershed.
It is really disheartening that the state gutted the plan that was sent, and there was a lot of stakeholders who sat in on that, including the city. There were farmers who were represented, and constituents. And to know that there was an agreement put in place and people were willing to move forward with that, and to see the state take all of the important things like the TMDL levels and take that out of that plan, that is not okay. And to know that our governor is sitting on it right now and that she could sign this and fix this for us and that she's choosing not to is also very disheartening. This is important, and this is not a political issue. This is an issue of human rights and what's going to be best for our constituents, and we need to do everything possible moving forward to fix this.
Mr. Dahl, you'll have 1 minute.
Just want to point that out, that it's a Democratic that's running the state of New York.
Mr. Harding.
Well,
I have a
Go ahead.
rebuttal.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that is an interesting way to kind of capture the issue of our water, is to say it's a Democratic issue, when Mr. Dahl earlier said that he is not here to place blame on either side or cast us against one another. It doesn't matter who is sitting in that office. Does not matter. The fact is, we need to address the drinking water issue here in Auburn. It is an economic issue, and if we work together, we are far more stronger together to make sure that that is being addressed. It's not a democratic issue. It's a human rights issue.
Mr. Dahl, you'll have 1 minute.
I don't need it. It was just a touche to your rebuttals about the Cayuga County Republican Party not passing the water bill. And if I'd been there, it would have passed.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but we don't need to do any more touches.
No, very good.
Mr. Harding.
Last question on the waterfront here. If the state refuses to implement the protections that were passed locally, what should the city council do to ensure that the drinking water is safe for its residents and users in neighboring towns?
Rhoda Overstreet Wilson, you're up first.
I think what has probably been most effective in having any kind of change, whether it's the water change or any social change, because this again is a human rights change, is the people's voice needs to be heard. If we come together as a city and then we come together as a community, we cannot be ignored. There's no way that those folks sitting in state leadership can ignore the voices of 25,000 folks and then ignore the voices of collectively over 80,000 folks. If we continue to have community meetings and we make it very prescriptive on what it is that we are talking about, then we can then share that information. We can share it. We can put it on the radio, we can tape it, and we can share that information. Again, collectively, we are stronger. It can't be this side of town or this side of town against, or this part of the county against this part of the city. If we come together and we have 80 voices behind what needs to happen, we cannot be ignored. And if we are ignored, we can come back. There's always the ability to come back.
Legislator Clarko.
I would agree absolutely full-heartedly with Mrs. Overstreet Wilson that we need to be collective as a voice, as all of the constituents of this area need to come together and put pressure on the state to fix this. I also think we can't not consider legal action, as since we have discovered that the EPA did notify the state that they were in violation and that a TMDL needs to be put in place for Owasco Lake, and they haven't. If it doesn't get taken care of, I think legal actions may be something that we need to consider to get this corrected.
Mr. Dahl.
I agree both wholeheartedly. I think we can probably even do better than that. Let's reach out to everyone in the Congress and Senate, locally and federally. Go right to the president, go right to the top. That's what they did in Flint, Michigan. That's what the letter was addressing, that we are the next Flint, Michigan, potentially. And I think we go that route, and let's get some FEMA money in it to help fix it. Make it newsworthy.
Mr. Harding.
All right. Let's shift gears to economic development. In early October, the former Bombardier plant was listed for sale. It's a major development for a site that has been vacant for 17 years. Based on this, how do you think the property should be used in the future, and how can city government play a role in attracting a major employer to occupy that space?
We'll start with Christina Clarko.
Well, I have to admit, the Bombardier, formerly known as Elko building, has a special place in my heart, as I did grow up on Orchard Street, right up the street from there. It was interesting how different the community was when that was open. It was thriving. There was a restaurant down there. I remember selling lemonade to the workers as a kid. And I think manufacturing is something that is important. We need to bring back and help get back into Auburn as part of our economic development. We need to make sure that that building is utilized properly and that all of the safety things need to be done to make sure that it can be inhabited and that people can be in there working. But I think this is a prime opportunity to really look at what Micron's needs are and hopefully bring in perhaps a secondary supplier to Micron, since our location is kind of perfect for that. So I hope to see us working with the county and potentially Micron, but not limited to Micron, as we could really benefit from any manufacturing coming back to Auburn. So that's what I'd like to move forward with.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dahl, on the use of the Bombardier, the former Elko plant.
It's kind of disheartening that it sat for 17 years and not being used, because I remember when I was a kid going by and seeing the trains coming in and out and a lot of employees coming in and out. It was a great facility. However, it's sat for 17 years, all boarded up, one security guard in doing a fire watch. I would like to see something going there. What goes in there is who knows. It could have been part of the milk plant. It could still be used part of the milk plant. They're doubling in size at the milk plant out in Aurelius. Would have been nice if we could have got part of Amazon here in Auburn. It could still be a part of Amazon as a storage facility or someplace to distribute. That place is growing every day. I just don't want to see it rot into the ground where you drive by now and the panels are starting to rust out and just go dilapidated like some of our homes here in town. I'd rather see it go to something that's going to be useful.
Ms. Overstreet Wilson, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I will repeat what my two constituents said. I grew up on Orchard Street as well, and Elko was the place where everybody wanted to work. I remember when my father and uncle got a job there, and we were so excited because those were really great jobs. I remember the stores and the restaurants being down there as well. I think Micron gives us a unique opportunity, not just to look at their needs, but to look at other local needs, and my counterpart Christina said that, but I believe in order for us to make the best use of that space and the best use of that grant money that we received is we need to get everybody to the table so that we can determine what the specific needs are. Locally, we have many jobs that we need to be thinking about in terms of workforce development. Micron coming in is going to bring another, although it is a huge problem in terms of workforce development, but it gives us an opportunity to really think about how to meet their needs and then meet our current needs within the city. I think being on a few committees, I think extending that reach into the community to ask specifically what it is that they would like to see there, considering it is on the west end of town and it will have a great impact visually for the folks that live on that side of town. I think it is important to definitely ask them, since they're going to be the persons that see it. But I want to lastly say, Micron is giving us a perfect opportunity to collaborate with them and to collaborate with our local industries as well.
Mr. Harding.
What Dr. Overstreet Wilson said is a good segue. I did want to ask you all about Micron as well. Micron's plans to invest $100 billion over 20 years is huge for Central New York. The city of Auburn certainly stands to benefit from this project. If elected to council, what will you do to help the city capitalize on Micron's investment beyond what we just talked about with the Bombardier plant?
Mr. Dahl, I believe you're up first.
Well, first, we've got to remember that Micron is at least 5 years out before they even put a shovel in the ground. They're tearing up the old houses that are on the property now, but anybody that works in the construction field or the planning phase, by the time they get permits and everything to dig, you're looking at 5 years. So it may be 10 years before it hits the city of Auburn once they expand and get everything built and people are getting the product out. I'm all for it. It's great. But I think we need to fix our water system first before we start banking on chickens that haven't hatched yet. That's a big piece of property they have out in Clay that they got a lot of room to expand. I know there's a place in northern Cayuga County that they're already eyeing the pie in the sky. But I know Auburn, we haven't really got any water here. They use a lot of water at these places. I'm all for it. I think it's great. I just like to see us do some pre-work before they come.
Ms. Overstreet Wilson on this issue of Micron.
Thank you. I read an article in The Citizen, it had to be a couple of days ago, where it was titled, "Is Cayuga County going to miss its opportunity with Micron?" If we continue to think that Micron is 5 or 10 years out of breaking ground, that we are definitely going to miss being prepared. I was at the NAACP dinner in Syracuse. The OCC's president, Dr. Hilton, was there, and he was talking about things that they are currently doing to make sure that their community and their students are ready for all of the opportunities that Micron that they're going to bring in. Breaking ground means that people are going to be here because you need people to break the grounds. Those people come and need some place to eat. Those people come and need some place to eat. This isn't 5 years from now. These folks are coming in now. if we get prepared like OCC has prepared, and I think there's a great opportunity with CCC to make that happen, and they look at the microchip manufacturing and the building of those microchips, chips, also look at the graduating rates and where those students are going directly after graduation, I think that we would be in the best position to take advantage of all of those opportunities that Micron are going to represent. Think about it. If a student can get a 2-year degree from a community college and then transition to a $125,000 job, that means that that person is going to stay in the area. The money is going to stay in the area. They're going to buy homes in the area. They're going to pay taxes in the area. We have to let big $100 billion organizations know, corporations know, we are ready for you. We're not going to get ready. We are ready.
Thank you. Legislator?
I think being prepared for what Micron can be bringing in is already bringing to us is really important. As an educator, I find it extraordinarily important. This is going to provide opportunities to our students that have not been here before, and developing our workforce is what's vital for that. Because I felt so strongly about that, I wanted to make sure I was going to be part of these conversations, and I do sit on the Micron Workforce Development Committee and looking at what our schools need to be doing, including CCC and our local high schools, and working with OCC and seeing what's needed. What's come out of those conversations that I think is even more important than just getting ready for Micron is realizing that we need workers all over the place. We have staffing shortages everywhere, and so this has really opened our eyes to this issue, to make sure that we understand that we need to do more with our youth, especially to make sure they're prepared for these opportunities as they start to come.
Okay, we just want to let our viewers know we're about a little over halfway through our Auburn City Council Forum. We have 3 of the 4 candidates here in the studio with us. Rhoda Overstreet Wilson, who's on the Democratic Working Families and Auburn Party line. Legislator Christine Calarca, who is on the Democratic Working Families Party and Auburn Party line, as well as Brian Dahl, who is on the Republican and Conservative lines. We did not get a response from Andrea Guerrera, who is on the Republican and Conservative lines. The candidates are being questioned by Robert Harding of the Citizen. He is their political reporter. Mr. Harding.
So just to wrap up here on Micron, one possible benefit of the Micron project is that workers at the facility in Onondaga County will choose to live here in Auburn. But housing is a challenge. What steps should the city take to ensure that housing is available for a potential influx of new residents?
Okay. Ms. Wilson Overstreet, you're up first.
I think that the city is looking wholeheartedly at not just the housing crisis that's happening here in Auburn, but also our homelessness. I'm a part of many committee conversations about grants that are being sought after, and where would we develop housing that would house not just our low-income families or folks that are on receiving social services, but also what do we do with our group of folks that are here that are homeless. If you take a look at what would be considered the village from way back when I was a kid, there's a development in front of that has definitely addressed looking at low-income families and also those folks that are receiving DSS. Those apartments are full all the time. If we take a look at West Middle School and think about what that looked like when it stood empty for how long, and all of the apartments that have been put in there. And it's not just used for low-income folks, it's also helping other local organizations like Unity House, so that those folks that are receiving services from there, that they can also find apartments in there. There are conversations that are being had about other buildings that can be developed into such housings, and I think that if we're going to go down that road, having Dr. Simmons, who has also been here from Micron, to be a part of that, I think that that would be super beneficial, because he will then know that we are very serious about developing housing for those folks that will be coming from Onondaga County. I think it's an opportunity that has the possibility to grow beyond, I think, anything that anybody sitting here could kind of fathom.
Thank you. Legislator, on this issue of housing.
Housing definitely is an issue for our area, and I'm pleased that people are considering and thinking about what's going on with our homelessness issues and how we're going to fix that moving forward, and that there's some things taking place. In regards to the potential influx of individuals due to Micron or other economic development, I think we have a lot of vacant buildings here in Auburn that we really need to make sure are getting rehabbed and are going to be repurposed to be used for housing for middle income individuals. I think there is often quite a bit available for people who have the money to buy something a little bit nicer. And we often talk about and work hard to help people who have less, but the people in the middle often get stuck. I think it's really important that we develop and really work on creating homes and rehabbing these homes that are vacant to be there for our middle class individuals.
Thank you. Mr. Dahl, on this issue of housing and Micron?
I think, like the already said, I think the housing issue is sad. I think we need to do something. There's really not a lot of brown space left to put up new housing development. I wish we did, but we don't. Unfortunately, they're going to be looking outside into the county spaces to develop new homes. Where that may be, I don't know, but there's really no place to build new homes here in the city of Auburn unless we annex into the towns in some different areas. I'm all for it. We need to do it. If you want to retain people, we need to fix our houses that are falling apart and hopefully sustain the people that we got instead of getting out of school and then leaving. We need to retain them here.
Can I say?
Yes, you have 1
something
minute.
I would just want to piggyback what Ms. Calarco said about rehabbing the current vacant housings. We have a lot of vacant houses in Auburn, and I would, if I was elected, when I'm elected to City Council, I want to be a part of those conversations about what can be done to create the opportunities for our middle class folks to purchase homes. I think if we think about it from that perspective, I think that we are missing out on a whole group of people that could be a part of programs that could help them retain the down payment, and then look at these homes as a way in which to help those folks move out of the apartment systems. They move out of the apartment systems, they purchase homes, that's a part of our economic development, and they pay taxes. And we're kind of doing that in a way that we're looking at our future. I look forward to being a part of that conversation.
Okay. Mr. Harding?
Yeah, since homelessness has been mentioned, I did want to get your positions on this proposal that was recently voted on by the county legislature to approve $1 million in federal American Rescue Plan funding to construct an emergency shelter on Grand Avenue, replace the existing shelter there. It is subject to city approval as well, so I wanted to get your takes on what you think of this proposal to build a new shelter in that space.
Legislator, I get the feeling that you got to vote on this last week.
I did get to vote on this, and I'm really pleased to say that the overwhelming majority of the county legislators supported this proposal. We supported, we're going to support this project with ARPA funds that have recently been deemed that they can be spent on homelessness. So this is a project that can be really very changing for the people of Auburn and the people who need to use these services. The county must house the homeless. We are obligated to by law. And so we don't have enough beds, and our homeless individuals often end up in hotels. This costs a lot of money. This isn't ideal for the hotels, and this isn't ideal for these people or these families that get stuck in there. So this project, knowing that we can give a huge shot in the arm to this project and get this started, is very exciting. I also know that there are other projects in the works in the old Holy Family Church school building, and also over on State Street, and being able to get people into housing that will have transitional needs being met for them, where case managers will be on site so they can get the help that they need to hopefully get them to the point where they are never going to need that assistance again, I think is important. So I'm really proud of the legislature for getting this passed.
All right, thank you. Mr. Dahl, on this issue of the 80 beds?
I'm going to piggyback off you. I think it's a great idea using some of these facilities and building a new facility. It breaks my heart that these people are living in the woods behind Walmart and behind a couple of gas stations here in town. A lot of these folks, if you ask for them to go get something to eat or go get something for them to wear, they really don't want to be bothered. They just want to be left alone, let them do what they want. I don't want this to be a shaming thing, them building a facility where they go there and now they're, oh, that's the homeless housing. It should never be called that. I think that should be a rescue housing situation for people that can go and maybe get back on their feet so they can get back out into a job in an apartment. I think it's going to be a great thing.
Mr. Overstreet Wilson, you have 2 minutes on this issue.
When I seen the build out of it in the paper, I was really impressed. I had visited that facility probably 2 or 3 months ago. We had some food, and I called there and spoke with the gentleman that is, I would assume that he was like the house manager, and he said, please, we do need the food. So when I went there and I seen the gentlemen that were sitting on like the front porch, my heart too, as both of my constituents said, breaks. I know personally what it feels like to be hungry. I know personally what it feels like to not have enough money to pay the rent and not being sure if we can stay here. So it hit me, not just in my gut, but in my heart. So I am ecstatic that that was voted on in the legislature so that these folks can have some place to call home. And it would also help them socially and emotionally. If we, and not a shaming opportunity for them, because sometimes that's what happens. You know, we're so excited about changes that are happening. We'll call it homeless shelter, the homeless shelter, the homeless shelter. We need to be cognizant of the information and how we're also communicating what the city is doing, because we want everybody to feel good about the opportunities, to have the right to live a healthy and normal lifestyle. So seeing that building come up and also seeing how the other empty buildings might be utilized, I'm very excited about that.
Mr. Harding.
I'm going to shift to tax policy. Governor Kathy Hochul has signed legislation allowing a few local municipalities, specifically the village of Weedsport and the town and village of Skaneateles, to charge a hotel tax. These taxes are in addition to the county occupancy taxes already charged to visitors. Should the city of Auburn pursue its own hotel tax?
Mr. Dahl, you're up on this one.
I'm not one for tax. I mean, we're taxed to death. I think there's other ways of making revenue besides people. We're trying to get people into the city of Auburn to visit our wonderful places that we have. And then charging them another tax on top of another tax on top of another tax. It's like looking at your phone bill. There's a tax, and fees. I'm not in favor of it. I don't think it should happen, but God knows what's going to happen.
Ms. Overstreet Wilson.
I too am and have been very fearful of that word tax. It does scare you as a person. Like how many more lines of taxation, you know, can happen to be put on a bill. But I now think differently about taxes. I'm excited, and I want to share that with you all, because our tax money collectively goes into the budget to make Auburn beautiful. And if we talk about tax from the perspective of it being progressive, we talk about tax from the perspective of it being a reinvestment into our community, where people feel like they love their hometown, where people are comfortable having people come into Auburn. It is a reinvestment into your community. I support the hotel tax because I want Auburn to be as beautiful as it can be. And when we talk about tax from the perspective of it being negative, that does create fear.
Legislator, you have 2 minutes on the issue of the hotel tax.
I'm glad that cities can make their own decision on whether or not they want to have this tax on there, and I respect Weedsport's decision to do so. Before I could say whether or not I would be in favor of Auburn putting its own tax on that on hotel rooms, I would need to see more information. I need to have more data on what that tax amount would be, how much it would generate, where those taxes would go, and would it have a negative impact on people visiting our city? Because if it's going to detract and keep people from coming in, then I don't think I could support a tax, even though it would benefit the city if it's going to keep people from coming here. So I need more information to before I can make a decision on what I think is best for the city moving forward.
And I concur.
Mr. Harney, you got time for 2 or 3 more questions. Go ahead.
Okay. Auburn recently resumed its paid on-street parking program downtown after allowing 2 hours of free parking for the last couple of years. At the Citizen, we talked to some business owners that are split on this. Some support the return of the paid parking program while others oppose it. Where do you stand on this question, and do you think we should continue or end this paid parking program?
I believe, Mr. Dahl, you're up next.
I wish they'd have left it the way it was. 2-hour parking is not very long when you're at the eye doctors on Genesee Street. Sometimes you're in the waiting room for half an hour to 45 minutes before you're seen. And then when they dilate your eyes, you come out and there's a ticket on your vehicle. So maybe leave it as it was. You can come out, stick a quarter in or whatever you have to. But the 2-hour free time was beneficial to a lot of customers coming in and out.
I apologize. This question should have gone to you first.
I
I'm
thought
sorry.
so,
But that's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I don't mind sharing the stage. As it relates to the 2-hour free parking, we must remember that that was being paid for by ARPA funds. So we had this cushion that could be used to create the opportunity for our citizens to come downtown. When I was out knocking doors, I had 2 questions that I would ask folks. What were their major concerns about Auburn, because I was going to be their representative? And the other thing was, how soon do you expect changes to be if I am elected? All of them, whenever I asked, that paid parking was not on the top 5 of their list. When I asked them about how quick do they want changes, their rebuttal to me was always, we want to see action being taken because we know that change takes time. I also spoke to business owners downtown, and yes, some of them might be split, but they all are in favor of creating that cycle of new customers coming in and out. When you have folks that are parked free all day, and there are other folks that want to come down and come to your eatery or come to your store or participate in any of the arts activities that are downtown, they're required to park in other places other than downtown, and that is a stifle to the economic benefit of those folks downtown.
Legislator, you have 2 minutes on downtown parking.
First, I would like to say I appreciate that Mrs. Overstreet Wilson brought up the fact that the downtown parking was free because of ARPA funds. So since we can't rely on that cushion anymore, we need to think about what we need to do moving forward. I travel quite a bit, and no other place have I ever gone downtown in an area where you didn't have to pay for parking. So this is not a new idea for anywhere. And additionally, we do still have free parking. We have a parking garage in which people can still park there for 2 hours. So if you're going to be there for a longer visit, but for our businesses, our eateries, our shops, they do need to have some parking in front where there is going to be turnover where people can get in there. So I do support bringing back that payment.
Okay. Mr. Harding, if this is for all candidates, Ms. Overstreet Wilson will go first.
Okay. CEDA, the Cuyahoga Economic Development Agency, plays a pivotal role in economic development across the county, including here in the city of Auburn. They obviously have faced some issues in recent months. What is your stance on how economic development, specifically with CEDA, should continue, just given questions now about how that group will be funded going into the future?
I think that when we think about our economic development and attracting new businesses, I think there are going to be bumps in the roads. And I think that there's going to be a group of people thinking it should happen this way and another group of people thinking that it should happen that way. But I think collectively, everyone wants the growth of businesses in Auburn. I read an article and had a couple conversations with folks that work at CEDA, and CEDA has had like 53 touches of folks looking to bring their businesses to Auburn. I think that if we give CEDA the support, and it may just be the support of making sure that they know that we support them, and if we have to support them financially, that we do get much more data, much more background. I would like to see a CEDA that not only has the 53 touches, but is also being responsive maybe to our immediate needs here, bringing in more of those local business owners or those folks that have business ideas and attracting them downtown. But I would like to see more data on what CEDA could do.
Legislator?
As a legislator, I've talked a lot and have been in a lot of discussions about CETA recently. CETA does play an important role in our economic development, and we cannot deny that fact. But there are concerns with what has happened recently and with the turnover of their higher level staff there. We cannot just dismantle CETA and say goodbye to it. I think that would be a mistake. But so moving forward, we have to either decide how we're going to fund CETA and make sure that we continue to do this work, or how this work is going to be shifted to another organization. At this point, I don't know exactly what the right answer is, but we cannot be without some kind of economic development agency here in Cuba County and in Auburn.
Mr. Dahl, in the role of CETA.
Well, I think CETA and ADA need to come together and work as a team. You know, it's all bringing them together and everybody getting the same one band, one sound. We all heard that over the years. I think they're working against each other. I think bringing them together is the key role here. So that way we're getting the same information to both agencies. Saving taxpayer money.
Thank you all. You've all had 3 bites at the first question, so we'll now turn to your closing statements, and we're going to give everyone 2 minutes. As we said at the beginning, we're going to reverse order. Mr. Dahl, who's on the Republican and conservative lines, will get to go first, and he has 2 minutes. Mr. Dahl.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time and bringing us all together here for this. My fellow constituents, over the years, your taxes have gone up and will continue to rise with inflation and reckless spending. The current situation has us at a standstill with our water quality. Our water quality is at the verge of being undrinkable. We put Band-Aids in place to attempt to fix it, and we have failed. Water is our #1 natural resource, and we cannot live without, and we need to fix that now. We need more policing, better surveillance, and crack down on crime. We need code enforcement to have the power to fix these dilapidated homes where the crime is stemming from. It took years to finally do something with number 10 Delavan Street, only to have them moved to other parts of the city. Their areas to roost. We need more citizen housing. We need to get people off the streets, out of our camps. We need to support public safety, let our kids have some clean parks, needle-free, drug-free, and put some trash cans so the trash can go into the cans, which is what I heard a lot around most of our parks, is there's trash flowing. I want to fix our beautiful lake and our drinking water. Let's fix and replace our failing infrastructures. Let's bring growth to our city. Let's keep our population here in Cayuga County, whether it be Auburn or Cayuga County, and let's make Auburn a better place. Vote Brian Dahl on number 7th for Auburn City Council. We can do much better, and I am committed, dedicated for all of Cayuga County.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl. We'll now hear from legislator Christine Calarco, who is on the Democratic Working Families Party and Auburn Party lines.
First, again, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Cosentino, Mr. Harding, CCC students, and the Citizen for giving us this opportunity. Most importantly, I want everybody to know who's listening today that I believe in Auburn and I believe in our community. I want to be a part of moving us forward in a positive direction. I don't want negativity to be what runs things. We need to look forward and do what's best for our children and for this area. Together, we can build a thriving community with a healthy lake, with jobs, with good homes for people. But all of us have to be invested, and all of us have to want to do this together. So with that, I am asking, I am imploring, I am begging you all to go vote. Everybody's voice is important. Everybody's voice needs to be heard at the polls. So please go vote. Early voting continues through Sunday. And if you don't get out for early voting, please get out on November 7th. And I humbly ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, legislator. We'll now hear from Rhoda Overstreet Wilson, who is on the Democratic Working Families Party line and the Auburn Party line.
Thank you. I want to also make sure that the sentiment of thank you is well known, not just to the Citizen and the students, but also Mr. Cosentino and Mr. Harding. Thank you very much for your graciousness and patience with us. I love my hometown. I'm going to say that over and over again. I love my hometown. I graduated from Auburn High. My children graduated from Auburn High. My husband works in Auburn. My children work in Auburn. My professional life has been in Auburn. I was here in Auburn, being born and raised here, for the many different life cycles that Auburn has gone through. When I was young, downtown was thriving. There were stores, there were eateries, there were things to do. It was the place to be. Years after that, I've also seen those stores go away, those eateries go away. I've seen the different art projects then go away, and it was desolate. The last 15 years, I have seen it become back live, and not only are we attracting new businesses, we are looking at businesses from the lens of equity and inclusion. The number of women that have opened up businesses. Downtown is a place where folks can come and feel comfortable, diverse cultures, and also our LGBTQ community. But I also understand that if we do not take a look at our drinking water and we do not come together collectively, economic development cannot happen, workforce development cannot happen. Water is the life force for all of us. So I'm asking you, if you would please vote for me in this election cycle. I'm committed to doing the work. I am not afraid of rolling up my sleeves. I'm not afraid of speaking out. I'm not afraid of meeting people one-on-one. I just want to be in a place where I can use my voice best to push for the change that is needed. I thank my husband, I thank my kids, I also thank my great campaign manager, and again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. We'd like to thank all three of you for joining us over the last hour to share your views. We also want to thank you for putting yourselves out there on the campaign trail. Only a week left to go, so happy Halloween and good luck in the rest of the week. We also want to take a moment to thank Mr. Harding. He'll be back on Thursday for our final forum, but we always are appreciative of the Citizen and its staff for always providing questions for the forum, so thank you again for doing this. We want to finally thank you for joining us over the last hour to watch 3 of the 4 candidates for City Council. As we said, we had also offered an invitation to Ms. Guerrera, who did not respond to our invitation. But we urge you to go out to the polls. You can go out and vote on November 7th, but early voting has started, as has been stated, and you can vote till Sunday. And we urge you to go out and vote, whether it's for City Council candidates, but if you're in the greater Cuyahoga County area, all of your legislators are up as well. Quick programming note, we will be back on Thursday, November 2nd, with our final forum for Mayor of the City of Auburn. City Councilor Jimmy Giannantino will be here in the studio, and he is running against Timothy C. Lattimore in a race for an open seat when Mayor Quill decided last year not to seek re-election. Quick programming note, after that, we'll be off next week. There'll be sound waves here in the studio for the college. We'll be back with Inside Government and Beyond the Front Pages the week of the 13th. And among our guests will be Cuyahoga County Legislative Chairman David Gould, City Mayor of Auburn, Mayor Quill, Jeff Perizolo of the Auburn School District, as well as John Lamondis, one of our members of the New York State Assembly. But until Thursday, we hope you have a good night, have a great tomorrow, happy Halloween, and we'll see you back in the studio on Thursday. Good night. Great. And we'll, I think we're...